Hi all, thanks for joining me. As a nutritionist, I see a lot of people wanting to know about the nutrient deficiencies that they have. And so I thought I'd go through a few really common ones that I see and how we know and what we can do about it, and where you might find these particular minerals in food in particular. So why does this matter? Okay, well, we need nutrition in our body. Um, because that really helps us run all the metabolic processes that happen in our body. And as we're going through perimenopause and into menopause, the hormones that we are experiencing great shifts in will impact our absorption and all manner of different things. And I've actually got a YouTube coming up on the on how transitioning into menopause actually affects our microbiome and our digestive system in particular. So stay tuned for that one. It does impact our appetite as well, and it's certainly we need to be mindful of the foods that we're eating, particularly at this time, and the supplements that I will talk about. I am usually a food first kind of practitioner, so I do try and sort that through as well as I can. And if not, if there's a particular deficiency, then supplementation may be advantageous. So, first mineral, zinc. We need it so many places in the body. There are hundreds of pathways and metabolic processes in the body that we need it for, but particularly for our immunity and our wound healing. You might find that you get sick a little bit more than normal, or you might catch things that perhaps are just floating around if you've got low zinc levels. But if your hair's a problem, or if you're finding your nails brittle, that might also be a sign. It's not the only reason, but zinc could be behind that. And you can see here that we've got zinc in a lot of animal products. There's some oysters there as well. There's nuts and seeds and pulses and some spices and so on, and legumes. Now we only need around 8 milligrams a day of zinc. So it's not an awful lot. And if you are taking a supplement, they can often be between 30 and actually 45 milligrams. So an enormous amount, which if you were deficient, could be helpful. However, if you aren't deficient, taking this kind of dose could be really problematic. It can compete for absorption with other minerals, particularly calcium and iron and so on. And it also might throw out of balance a whole lot of other minerals, in particular copper. So knowing that you are deficient is really important before you start taking supplements of any kind. We can do some testing, which I'll talk about in a little moment. Probably everyone knows about magnesium. Um, it helps us relax, it helps our nervous system, it can be really helpful for sleep, but also for energy. Our energy pathways rely heavily on magnesium. If you're getting cramps or restless legs, the cramping or the eye twitches, if you ever get one of those, where a muscle just keeps firing and just really, really irritating, that can be magnesium. Poor sleep can be low magnesium, but it can be a whole lot of other things as well. And maybe anxiety, headaches, and fatigue could fall into that low magnesium picture. I find often when people are stressed that they might go through more magnesium than they can get in. We need to get in 320 milligrams a day. And so supplementation can be helpful then. And also, if you're not eating a whole lot of the foods on this, on over here, so the leafy greens in particular, nuts again, seeds, avocado, some whole grains. It's not too hard to get enough magnesium from the food that you're eating, but have a look at those foods and see if you can manage that. Otherwise, the therapeutic dose, depending on, can be 200 to 400 milligrams. If you need more than that, there might be something else going on, and it might not be magnesium that's a problem. Copper. Oh, we don't talk about copper very much, and um, it's really, really important. We don't need a lot of it, like 1.2 milligrams a day, so like a tiny amount. And it needs to be in balance with a whole lot of other minerals, in particular zinc. So low signs, fatigue, but I promise, please don't, if you're tired, don't start taking a whole lot of copper. I think it's something that you need to have a little bit more of a look into than that. Um, Pale skin because copper and iron are friends. To get iron from our storage that we have of iron in the body, it's a copper dependent enzyme. So really important to have the right amount of everything in our bodies. Oysters, crab, nuts, seeds, leafy greens, and dark chocolate, but you didn't hear me say that. And I could have said dark chocolate for magnesium as well. I think a lot of people hear when I say it's dark chocolate that they have permission then to eat a whole lot of it, and that's really not going to be helpful. So a little bit, not a lot. Chromium, interestingly, is often thought to be the mineral to support our blood glucose. And if we're insulin resistant, then perhaps you might consider chromium. Now, there are many things that I would do before giving a chromium supplement to someone, making sure that they stabilize their blood glucose with adequate amounts of protein, the size and thickness of the palm of your hand 3 times a day would be ideal, alongside a whole lot of other whole foods. And you can see here we've got nuts and seeds and vegetables and, um, you know, bread, sure, but it's sourdough perhaps, or it's seeded bread. So slow release. And that will, over the day, really help with ironing out blood glucose spikes. If that's still a problem, then sometimes I go into chromium, I go into herbs, I go into other things in order to be able to support um, stable blood glucose. Selenium and a really super important antioxidant in the body. We need it for thyroid. We also need it for the manufacture of glutathione, which you may not know about, but it is our universal fire extinguisher, if you will. It puts out inflammation all over the body. So very important little mineral, this one. Um, the RDI is going to be 60 micrograms, so a thousandth of a gram of a gram, sorry, of a milligram. And the upper limit is 400 mics. I've never given 400 in my life to anyone. I wouldn't dare. I think I'd start at 100, 150 if I had to supplement, and I'd be very, very mindful of how long I was doing that for. Um, so if you've got a thyroid problem, please don't rush out and get a selenium. It may be helpful. It may not be the only thing that's needed. For thyroid, we also need our friend zinc, but we need quite a few other things as well, iodine, some B vitamins, some vitamin D, all sorts of things, vitamin A. There's a number of different things that we need when we're going to do looking at an underactive thyroid. Um, I've heard people say, 2 or 3 Brazil nuts. I've heard some people say 6 Brazil nuts. I think, a good handful is fine. Um, I think you can see on the food here, there's a lot of seafood. There's a lot, again, of the nuts and the seeds. They're better off if they are activated. So that means that the fiber in the nuts and seeds have been changed in some way to make them more easily digested and more, therefore, more bioavailable with the nutrients in them. So the other way you could go is to chew them, chew your nuts and seeds really well, which I actually. So what can we do? I've gone through quite a few different minerals there, and maybe some of them you're taking or you have taken. How do we know? Well, we can get tested. Usually what's in the blood, so if you get a serum zinc or a serum magnesium or any of the minerals, what you'll find is what's circulating. So if you've had a supplement that day or you've eaten some food, what you'll be testing in the blood is actually what you've been eating. what we really like to do is look at how much of the minerals are actually in the tissues themselves. And so we can do, again, it's a blood draw, but we can do a red blood cell panel. You can look at red cell zinc or magnesium independently as well, but I will run a whole panel and just see what the levels are. If they're higher, they're low, or where what we need to do. And as a result of that, potentially look at the diet and maybe supplementation if needed. So I'm hoping that that might be helpful, interesting, and let me know in the comments if you want me to do more on testing. I love testing, so I'm most happy to talk about that. And if you're also wondering, like to have a chat, you're welcome to book a discovery call with me. There's no pressure, just give me a call and we can have a chat and find out what might be the next right step for you. Next week, we're going to look at phytoestrogens, which I think a lot of perimenopause and menopausal women are told to eat. But in particular, we're looking at it for hair growth. And I might touch on bone health as well. So look forward to seeing you next week.